Ladies and gentlemen, when life says no, most people crumble. They take it as a final verdict, a closed door, a failure, a reason to stop. But no is not a wall meant to block you. It's a mirror. It doesn't exist to keep you out. It exists to reflect what you currently are. It reflects your belief system, your identity, your habits, your confidence, and your preparation. It doesn't say you're not worthy. It says you're not yet ready. And most people don't hear that correctly. They stop because they think the world has rejected them. But the truth is, life is showing them exactly what they believe about themselves deep down. Every time you hear no from life, whether it's from a person, an opportunity, a business deal, or even from the world when you're trying to push forward, it's not actually the world turning you away. It's showing you a version of yourself that you've outgrown but haven't yet replaced. No is feedback, not failure. It's the universe saying, if this version of you gets what you want, you'll sabotage it, so I'm protecting you by denying it. That's not rejection, that's alignment waiting for your evolution. The people who rise in life, who achieve extraordinary results, they don't avoid rejection, they welcome it, they study it, they understand that every no is a tool to expose what still needs to be sharpened within them. They understand the mirror effect. When something doesn't work out, it's not about the thing itself, it's about their alignment, their vibration, their identity, their mindset. If you're constantly running into walls, it's not because the world is unfair, it's because you're being shown your limits, your assumptions, your inner conflicts. And your job isn't to curse the mirror, it's to fix the reflection. Look at your life. Every time you've heard no, what was it really saying? Was it just rejection? Or was it saying you needed to become more? Be honest. Were you really ready for that level of responsibility, money, success, or pressure? Were you the version of yourself that could actually sustain the thing you were asking for? Or were you just hoping that if you got it, you'd figure it out later? That's not power, that's wishful thinking. And the world doesn't reward wishful thinkers, it rewards warriors, those willing to confront themselves, grow, and take full ownership over who they are becoming. The harsh truth is, you attract what you are, not what you want. So, if you're constantly facing resistance, it's because you haven't yet become the version of yourself who naturally aligns with what you're chasing. And when you understand that, every no becomes a map. A signal, a divine interruption that says, upgrade required. Most people avoid that message. They numb it with distractions, blame others, or quit. But the few, the rare few, they stare directly into that mirror and go to work. Rejection, failure, disappointment, these are all neutral. What gives them meaning is your interpretation. If you let a no mean you're not good enough, you'll stay in that identity for years, even decades. But if you let a no challenge you, provoke you, confront your laziness, or attack your victim mindset, then that same no becomes the reason you rise. That's the difference between winners and whiners. Both get rejected, both feel pain, but one uses the pain as leverage, while the other uses it as an excuse. You were never meant to be stopped by rejection. You were meant to be defined by how you responded to it. How many people do you know that gave up after a few no's? How many people told themselves, maybe it's not for me? How many people settled, not because they weren't capable, but because they didn't understand that no was simply a signal to grow, not a command to quit? The people who win in life are not the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who had it hard, but learned how to decode the message in every hardship. No is also an identity check. If your self-image isn't built for greatness, every rejection will feel like proof that you're not enough. But if your self-image is wired for victory, every rejection will feel like preparation. You need to ask yourself, what story are you attaching to rejection? What meaning are you assigning to being told no? Is it making you shrink, or is it forcing you to rise? Most people live their lives hoping to avoid pain, hoping to avoid the sting of failure, but that's exactly why they stay stuck. They're afraid of what the mirror might show them. But you, if you're truly ready to change your destiny, you must confront every no like a warrior. You must use it to see your own blind spots. If you get rejected, good. Now you know what part of you still needs refinement. If your dream gets delayed, good. That delay is training you to hold it when it finally arrives. If someone doubts you, good. Let that be the fire that makes you unshakable. The truth is, most people are told no once or twice and spend the rest of their lives avoiding risk, afraid of hearing it again. That's how they die before they're dead. But if you're willing to lean into every rejection, to treat every closed door like a reflection of where you need to evolve, you'll never lose. Because now you're no longer asking life for permission. You're demanding alignment through action, through discipline, through growth. You're saying, I will become the version of me that no one can deny. Negative feelings. Most people fear them, suppress them, or let them dominate their lives. They think feeling angry, sad, anxious, frustrated, or doubtful means something's wrong with them. They think they need to hide those emotions or numb them with distractions, food, scrolling, talking, complaining, or blaming others. But what they don't realize is this: those feelings are not weakness. They are misunderstood power, misused fuel, untrained energy. When you're angry, when you're broken, when you feel the weight of everything collapsing, what you're really holding is raw, unfiltered force. But force without direction is chaos. Energy without purpose becomes destruction, and that's what people call negative emotions. But here's the truth: there are no negative emotions. There are only emotions you don't understand. Emotions you haven't learned to convert. When you feel anger, it's energy trying to break out of confinement. It's your higher self saying, something needs to change. But instead of listening, most people shut it down. They label it as bad. They tell themselves to calm down, to be positive, to smile. That's the problem. You don't rise by suppressing your emotional power. You rise by facing it and learning how to master it. You were never meant to escape your emotions. You were meant to harness them. Think about it. What causes depression? It's not just sadness. It's unprocessed rage turned inward. It's potential unexpressed. It's you knowing deep down that you're capable of more but feeling stuck in patterns that no longer serve you. That pain isn't weakness. It's a message. It's your system screaming, this isn't the life you were built for. But instead of listening, society teaches you to mask it with fake smiles and coping mechanisms. They teach you to accept misery and call it maturity. But real maturity is turning your darkest feelings into the strongest fuel you've ever known. When someone tells you to just be positive, they're usually scared of your intensity. They're not ready for the depth of energy you carry. But warriors are, leaders are, creators are. The ones who win in life didn't avoid pain, they mined it. They dug into it and turned it into fire. They turned heartbreak into clarity. They turned betrayal into boundaries. They turned fear into focus. They didn't label their emotions as problems. They treated them like signals. And they built power from what others tried to run from. Look at the most dangerous, dominant, and driven people on the planet. They were once broken. They once felt overlooked, underestimated, abandoned, or betrayed. They felt like failures. They were told you're not enough. But instead of staying there, they used those emotions as leverage. They didn't let sadness drown them. They used it to sharpen their vision. They didn't let rage burn them. They used it to fuel discipline. That's the difference. The average man lets emotions consume him. The elite man forges those emotions into weapons, weapons of purpose. Weapons of focus, weapons of control. But let's be real, it's not easy. It's not supposed to be. The process of emotional alchemy, of transforming pain into power is war, and the battlefield is your mind. You'll be tempted to quit, to numb yourself, to blame, to hide, but that's when you go deeper. You sit with the emotion, you ask it what it's teaching you, what it's pointing toward, because inside every painful emotion is a message. And when you decode that message, you unlock strength that no one can take from you. Anger can become discipline, doubt can become clarity, sadness can become gratitude, fear can become alertness, loneliness can become hunger. Every emotion is fuel if you learn how to convert it, but if you avoid it, if you label it negative, it festers, it turns toxic, and then you start seeing life through the lens of pain instead of power. You start living in reaction instead of creation. You become a slave to feelings you never chose to understand. That's the path of weakness, but your path, if you choose to walk it, is to face the emotion fully with zero fear. When something inside you feels heavy, Whether it's regret, heartbreak, or shame, it's not trying to destroy you. It's trying to reveal something about you. It's trying to say, this version of you must evolve. But most people don't want to hear that. They want comfort, they want distraction, they don't want transformation because transformation demands pain, it demands exposure, it demands sitting in the discomfort long enough to break through the illusion. If you want to change your life, you have to stop running from how you feel and start investigating it. You have to ask, what is this emotion really here to teach me? Think about every major breakthrough in your life. Did it come when everything felt amazing? Or did it come after a storm, after you hit rock bottom, after something broke you wide open? You already know the answer. Pain awakens power. That's why you can't be afraid of your emotions. You can't treat them like enemies. You must invite them in, extract their wisdom, and redirect their energy into action. Because once you learn to channel your emotions into creation instead of destruction, no situation, no failure, no betrayal can ever own you again. You become untouchable, not because you don't feel, but because you've mastered how to respond. You don't react to life anymore, you lead it. You use every ounce of internal pressure as fuel to dominate your day, dominate your thoughts, dominate your direction. That's when you stop surviving and start leading. That's when your destiny shifts, not through motivation, but through emotional mastery, through turning every so-called negative emotion into a sharpened edge. A tool, a fire that never burns out. Destiny doesn't respond to wishes. It doesn't bend to dreams. It doesn't change because you wrote down goals once in a notebook or visualized success while lying in bed. Destiny is shaped aggressively, relentlessly, and daily by decisions, not by emotions, not by motivation, not by what you hope will happen, but by what you decide to become, what you commit to doing, and what you refuse to tolerate any longer. You don't get a new life because you want one. You get it because you demand one with your actions even when everything inside you wants to quit. You can't sit around waiting for the right mood, the right moment, or the right alignment of the stars. Most people live their entire lives in this state of passive hope, believing that someday something will click. Someday they'll wake up more confident, more focused, more ready, but that day never comes for them because they never made a decision. A real one, the kind that feels like a line drawn in the sand, the kind that says enough, I'm not living like this anymore, until you reach that point where your decision is louder than your doubt, nothing will change. Most people talk like they want to win, they say the right things, they post quotes, they act like they're locked in, but their decisions betray them. They keep deciding to delay, to scroll, to sleep in, to talk instead of work, to stay in toxic environments, to avoid risk, and every one of those decisions shapes their destiny brick by brick. They don't even see it happening, but destiny isn't one big event. It's not some dramatic breakthrough. It's quiet. It's built in the shadows. It's written in the way you wake up, the way you train, the way you speak to yourself when no one's around. Every time you say yes to a distraction, you're writing your future. Every time you say no to discomfort, you're telling the world what kind of destiny you're willing to settle for. And every time you hesitate when you should act, you send a message to your subconscious that says, I'm okay with staying where I am. That's why most people never leave the starting line, because they never made the kind of decision that demands a new result. They just made soft promises and shallow intentions. Real change starts when you decide to move differently, no matter how you feel. When you make the decision that even if you're tired, even if you're unsure, even if you don't see the full picture, you're going to act like the version of yourself who already has what you want. You're going to embody the mindset, the habits, and the energy of someone who doesn't negotiate with excuses. Because the truth is, destiny isn't something you chase. It's something you match. And to match that destiny, you have to start living like the person who already owns it. You can't keep acting like a version of yourself who's confused, scared, or passive and expect to suddenly inherit a life of power, wealth, clarity, and purpose. That life is reserved for those who made the internal shift first. It doesn't start outside of you. It starts with the decision to raise your internal standards so high that nothing less than full alignment with your potential is acceptable. That's what separates the successful from the forgotten. Everyone has pain, everyone has a past, everyone has moments of fear and moments where giving up feels easier, but not everyone makes the decision to rise anyway. Not everyone says, "I don't care what it takes. I will build this life, brick by brick, hour by hour, no matter how hard it gets." That level of commitment can't be faked. It's forged. And once it's locked in, you become dangerous. Not because everything is easy, but because nothing can break your decision. If you look around at your life and you're not where you want to be, the first thing you need to ask is, what have I really decided? Not what have you hoped for, not what have you said out loud, but what have your actions confirmed? Because actions never lie, they tell the truth about what you actually value. You say you want freedom, but you keep choosing comfort. You say you want to grow, but you avoid challenge. You say you're ready to change, but you keep living like you're still in your old story. That's not a decision, that's a wish with no spine, but the moment you make a real decision, everything starts to shift. Your energy changes, your habits shift. You no longer see struggle as a sign to stop. You see it as proof that the process is working. Because now you're acting from a place of identity, not emotion. You're no longer reacting to life, you're rewriting it. You're no longer hoping for results, you're engineering them. That's the power of decision. It's not loud. It's not flashy, it's not always visible on the outside, but it's final, it's quiet, focused, unwavering, and it shows up every single day in the way you live, the way you push, and the way you refuse to go back. It's the difference between being interested in success and being obsessed with becoming the person who earns it. Discipline is the weapon, emotions are the battlefield, and if you don't understand this, you will be ruled by your feelings for the rest of your life. You'll live in emotional cycles, motivated one day, lazy the next, focused in the morning, distracted by night. You'll build momentum and break it every time things get uncomfortable. That's how average people live. They let their emotions steer the ship, and then wonder why their life keeps crashing into the same walls. They think they're unlucky or that they don't have the right circumstances. But the truth is, they just never trained themselves to use the one thing that separates winners from the rest, discipline. Discipline is not motivation. It doesn't depend on how you feel. In fact, discipline is strongest when your emotions are screaming for escape. When you wake up tired and your mind says, take a break, but you train anyway, that's discipline. When your business is slow and your confidence is shaking, but you keep showing up with precision, that's discipline. When life hits you with loss, setbacks, betrayal, and you still get up and execute, that's not inspiration, that's internal control, that's real power. Everyone talks about mindset, but mindset without discipline is just theory. It's fantasy. Discipline is what converts belief into action. You can listen to all the motivational speeches in the world, read every book, meditate for hours. But if you don't move when it's hard, when it's boring, when it's thankless, then none of it matters. You will lose to the man who moves with discipline over emotion every time, because while you're trying to feel ready, he's stacking wins. While you're chasing passion, he's building structure. While you're waiting for clarity, he's creating it through action. And here's what most people don't want to hear. Your emotions are lying to you every day. They tell you you're tired when you're just uncommitted. They tell you you're overwhelmed when you're just unorganized. They tell you it's too hard when you've barely scratched the surface of your potential. If you listen to that voice, if you trust those feelings, you'll live a small life, because comfort always feels better in the moment. But discipline builds a life that feels better permanently. You don't need to be ruled by your emotions. You need to weaponize them. You need to train your mind to see discomfort as a green light, not a red one. When you feel resistance, that's not a sign to stop. That's a cue to lock in. That's when most people pull back, but you push harder. That's the separation. Winners don't feel less emotion than others. They just don't obey it. They recognize it, but they act anyway. That's the difference between a soldier and a civilian. A soldier knows the mission doesn't care how he feels. The mission only responds to execution. You can't control what emotions show up, but you can control whether or not they run your life, and that's the battle most people never fight. Because it's an internal war, it's not glamorous, no one sees it. There's no applause, but if you lose that battle, you'll keep finding yourself quitting at the same place over and over again. You'll start strong and fade. You'll have vision but no traction. You'll say you want more, but never become the person who can hold more. And that's the real problem. You think the problem is outside of you: bad luck, lack of support, no time, but the truth is you're just too obedient to your mood. You listen to your fatigue more than your goals. You listen to your fear more than your focus. You listen to your doubt more than your discipline. That's what needs to change, because your future doesn't care how you feel right now. Your dream life isn't waiting for you to feel like it. It's waiting for you to become the person who shows up regardless. Discipline doesn't mean you're emotionless. It means you've chosen your mission over your mood. It means that when life gets messy, and it will, you keep showing up like the result is non-negotiable. That kind of discipline is rare. That kind of discipline makes you dangerous, because now nothing external can break your flow. Whether you're praised or hated, rich or broke, winning or learning, your actions stay consistent. That's how you build real momentum. That's how you earn respect from others, and more importantly, from yourself. There's no shortcut to this. There's no app, no hack, no guru that can do this for you. You have to make a decision that from this moment forward, your emotions are allowed to be loud, but they're not allowed to lead. You'll feel tired, you'll feel discouraged, you'll feel overwhelmed, but none of those feelings mean stop. They mean continue. They mean you're in the thick of growth. And if you want to come out the other side with results, not regrets, you need to act your way through the battlefield, not wait to feel different. You build the life you want not through inspiration, but through discipline forged in fire. Every morning you don't hit snooze. Every workout you complete when your mind says no. Every time you choose purpose over pleasure. That's how you sharpen your edge. That's how you train your nervous system to stop flinching at effort. That's how you build a life that reflects your standard, not your feelings. And once you train yourself to move with discipline, not emotion, you become unstoppable, not because life gets easier, but because you get harder to break. Every war begins within. Before any battle is fought in the outside world, whether it's for success, legacy, respect, money, or transformation, the first and most brutal battlefield is inside your own mind. It's where the real enemy lies. Not outside in the world, not in other people's opinions, not in competition, but inside you, in the quiet, in the moments no one sees. That's where the war starts. That's where most people lose before they ever take action. They lose to doubt. They lose to fear. They lose to hesitation, to laziness, to distraction, to the belief that they aren't enough. And the truth is, you can't win in the external world if you haven't first declared war on the internal habits and thought patterns that keep you average. The external world is just a reflection of your inner world. What you tolerate inside, you allow outside. If you accept chaos, self-pity, and weakness inside your own head, it will show up in your environment. Your room will be a mess. Your schedule will be inconsistent. Your finances will be unstable. Your relationships will lack depth. Not because the world is unfair, but because your inner state is disorderly. It's unfocused, undisciplined. That's why the real war isn't against society. It's not against your job. It's not even against your past. It's against the version of yourself that keeps showing up unarmed, untrained, and unwilling to fight for what you claim to want. You have to confront that version of yourself, the one that procrastinates, that doubts, that overthinks, that rationalizes weakness. That version isn't you, it's your comfort talking, it's your fear dressed in logic. And every time you listen to it, you feed it, you make it stronger, you give it more control over your life, until one day you wake up and realize you've spent years living in a cage you built with your own thoughts. A prison of hesitation, a lifetime of maybes and somedays. That's why this war matters, because if you don't win here inside, you'll lose everywhere else. Think about how many dreams have died not because people weren't capable, but because they surrendered to their own inner resistance. They gave in to the voice that said, "You're not ready. You'll look stupid. You'll fail like last time. That voice isn't truth, it's weakness disguised as caution, and every day you listen to it, you delay your destiny. That's the enemy. It's not out there, it's in here. And unless you go to war with it, unless you become ruthless with the inner dialogue that keeps you small, you'll keep replaying the same chapters over and over again, calling it life. This war is about reclaiming authority over yourself, about waking up and deciding, I'm done being controlled by thoughts that serve no purpose. It's about recognizing that your mind is programmable, but if you don't program it with strength, with vision, with intention, then the world will program it for you, and the world wants you soft. The world wants you passive. The world wants you obedient to impulse and weak in the face of adversity. It rewards laziness with comfort and distracts you from your own power. That's why you must fight. That's why every day is a battle. Not just to win, but to remember who you really are underneath the layers of conditioning, fear, and failure. And this isn't a one-time fight. It's not a motivational high followed by a return to the old routine. This is daily warfare. Every morning, you either rise with purpose or you fall back into excuses. Every evening, you either go to bed proud of your execution or ashamed of your avoidance. The inner war is fought in decisions, not emotions. In whether or not you did what needed to be done, regardless of how you felt, and most people lose not because they weren't talented, but because they refused to fight when it didn't feel good. They waited for motivation. They waited for clarity, but war doesn't wait for ideal conditions. It demands commitment now. This is why the strongest people you know, the most relentless, focused, and calm under pressure aren't that way by accident. They've gone to war with themselves over and over. They've confronted the parts of themselves that lie, that panic, that crave comfort, and they've crushed them day by day with consistency. They've trained their minds like warriors train their bodies, under pressure, with discipline, and through repetition. That's why they move different. That's why they speak with conviction. Because they've already won the war inside, and now the outside is just a game of execution. But make no mistake, the war is hard. It'll test you when you're tired. It'll whisper to you when you're uncertain. It'll make you question everything when nothing is going right. And it's in those exact moments that your outcome is decided. Not when everything's going well, not when you're being cheered on, but when you're alone in silence, staring at a wall, battling thoughts that tell you to stop. That's where warriors are made, not on the stage. Not on the screen, but in solitude, in suffering, in silence. You have to be willing to destroy the weaker version of you, completely. Not negotiate with it, not tolerate it, not reason with it. Destroy it. The indecisive version, the scared version, the lazy version, the emotional version, you kill it by acting in direct opposition to it, by choosing what it fears, by stepping into what it avoids, and over time, as you keep making decisions from the higher self, the older self starts to die. That's how you win, not with one big moment, but with 1,000 micro wars where the stronger version of you keeps showing up again and again until the weaker one has nothing left to say.